Hi, my name is Maeve, and I wanted to make this video to talk about what it's like to be a job seeker in 2023. The reason why I think this could be an interesting video is because the job market is kind of brutal right now. I just recently graduated from college. I've been looking for different types of roles, mostly in law and tech, but it's been pretty rough. And I think that the sentiment of finding a job and it being really difficult and kind of tiring and irksome is something that a lot of people can relate to. And I think that I have some comments and tips on it that maybe have not otherwise been posed, at least from the perspective of a job seeker that just left college, because we're given like a lot of different information and not all of it's good. So yeah, a little bit more about me is I just said that, a little bit more about me is that I did just graduate. I've been looking for a job, honestly, a little bit before I graduated from university, but yeah, I've done a little bit of temp work here and there, but haven't been able to like nail down like a full-time, long-term position. I've written over 200 I've applied to over 200 jobs, some interviews, but nothing substantial. And I'm going to be honest, I'm like completely disenfranchised right now. But I think that's subject to change, as is most things, right? But another thing that I'm trying to do with my fun employment time is to kind of ponder what it is that I want to contribute to. I think I took a pretty traditional route in going straight to a 4 year or straight through to college without having any gap year. And yeah, I think that is a perspective that a lot of people are probably experiencing, especially if you just graduated. And then I also just kind of want to throw in here that I think that the way that things are right now is probably going to extend to other graduating classes, so 24 and 25. It's just getting harder and harder to get a job, and I'll talk more about that further on in the video. So I want to talk about first some tips that I've gotten for applying. And I think that these are all pretty generic, but I think it'd be useful to just go over them because I'm sure that you have probably been told this by probably 15 different people you talk to about jobs, and it's like, well, tell me something else, please, because this shit's not working. Okay, so one of the tips that I've gotten is that it's a complete and total numbers game. You just apply to everything that you see that's even remotely related to the job that you want to do, and you just apply. Another tip that I've gotten is to market your skills and everything about you that appeal to the position and how that fits within their company. That I think is a little bit more difficult to do, especially if you're not in the tech sector, because I think there are roles that exist where soft skills are a little bit more valuable. And I think when you're working through college and you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your career, it's really hard to kind of verbalize and provide a succinct response as to like what your soft skills do and how they served you. But as you practice, your interview format, right, you get better and better at it. That leads me to my next point that I've been told is always engage the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. I do think that is a very helpful format of responding to questions, particularly the behavioral ones. It just can help organize your thoughts. Yeah, another big one is curating your resume to the specific job listing. So like running it through like ChatGPT or some AI program and making sure it specifically says the keywords, optimize that SEO, right, on the job application in your resume. Excuse me. Another tip that I've gotten a lot is apply to the most recent job listing on Indeed and LinkedIn. A bow break. Yeah, so you just I cannot tell you how many times I just sat there refreshing the page to see something that popped up in my area. You're just serially online at that point. And then others are connection related. So, reaching out to people that you have connections with on LinkedIn, letting them know that you're looking for jobs and what you're looking to do. Another one is following recruiters and kind of seeing jobs they post, or even connecting with them to get a better understanding of what they're looking for, or looking for the jobs they're hiring for specifically. And then the last one is join various LinkedIn groups. And I feel like my dog is asleep. I have done a lot of that. I'm in a bunch of like really random ones that just sort of I have an interest in, but sometimes that can work. They do post listings of stuff, but again, it's LinkedIn, so you're going to get a really, really high volume of people applying to stuff. I think at one point I had LinkedIn Premium, and per job listing on the recommended page, it was at least 500 plus applications per job. Insane. So, pardon me if this entire conversation is a little scattered. Like, you're doing this with me live, but this is just how like my post-grad brain is thinking. There's just so many things on my mind. But anyway, let's get into this. What do I think about searching for a job now? And I think that I've had considerably more success with kind of my new ideology now, because I think in my case, it makes way more sense to do it this way. And the one thing that really hit me was I'm tired. I'm tired of applying to random jobs that I don't care for, and that probably will make my life be living to work instead of working to live. Right. And I don't know, I'm not that into that. And I think that's partially why I kind of am not sure about law school. On to my next point. I think that having applied to over 200 applications within the span of 4 months, which I know doesn't seem very long, but I want to say that I significantly slowed down within the last 2 months, because at a certain point, I was just like, this is not working. Like, just blindly applying to stuff. Yes, it does work, I guess, from a numbers point of view, right? Larger sample size. But I think if you don't have a reason to yourself for why you're doing it, it can just seem super pointless, right? Like, if you're in it for experience, then that's great experience and you're able to take that and go with it. I just wasn't that type of person. I'm not really that type of person. And I wanted to like care more about the roles that I was applying for, because this is what I'm going to be spending most of my days doing. I better have a good idea of how I at least want to approach this process of finding it, right? Another thing here is that once you are in the job seeking market for long enough, it can just feel like you're not up to snuff. Like, you just kind of feel like you have no skills, you're not desirable, there's something wrong with your resume, there's something wrong with the way that your posture is, there's something wrong with the interviewer, there's something wrong with the industry, right? Like, it's so easy to use the rejection from seeking jobs as a way to kind of harm yourself in the process and make you feel like you just have no skills and you're just like totally incompetent. That happened to me. I'm still like kind of building back from it. I'm just like, I did not go to school for this, like I thought I was going to be okay, but whatever. And I'll get to that at the end of the video. So I think that one of the difficulties with job seekers in my category is, or in my categories and in my graduating class, is that I think that there are jobs, they're just completely undesirable ones. They're ones that don't necessarily require a college degree, and they're also ones that are not super intellectually stimulating and do not pay, cost of living and kind of substantiate our cost of life, right? So if you're like me and you went to 4 years of college, right, you're probably told throughout your entire life that, a college degree secures consistent income and in some ways consistent upward mobility to some degree, right? Like, depending on where you're at, but at least it secures some sort of financial security, when that has recently proven not to be the case, especially with a lot of students leaving college with a lot of debt. And so that can be really, really disenfranchising. And another thing that I think prohibits people from getting hired right now is the silent hiring. I was actually reading a couple of articles about this. So silent hiring is where companies do have open positions, but they don't actually post it on any sort of public site like Indeed, LinkedIn, Ripple. There's so many sites now, but they don't post it publicly. What they do is they talk to their own internal teams who look either within the company, or they get direct referrals and recommendations from people who work in that team, right? So it's the whole connection thing. If you don't know somebody, then you're not hearing about the job, then you're not getting an interview, then you're not getting the job, right? Or if you don't have somebody in your back seat sort of moving your resume to the top 3 resumes that hit the desk of the hiring manager, then you're probably not getting an interview and you're not getting hired. I think particularly silent hiring is a bit nefarious, right? Like it kind of, I guess, depending on the school that you went to, you probably have a pretty good alumni network that sort of assures those connections to you. And I think that's been the case for a really long time. But now that a lot of other schools, not all other schools, but a lot of other industries are doing sort of this silent hiring tactic thing too, it is kind of really hard from the outside to feel like you can like peer into it and have a chance. I find the silent hiring pretty nefarious and particularly hurtful, like at least just from like my point of view. I mean, I've heard of jobs and applied to them and still didn't really get them. So maybe the silent hiring thing is also inundated with applications too, but I kind of doubt it, especially from public posts, right? Public posts will be like 500 plus applications. Okay, I think this particularly impacts certain industries, but I do think that the most recent tech layoffs in around April, and then I think November of last year really kind of hurts the game a little bit, because you're kind of, as a new grad, as an entry level person, you're going up against people with 6 or 7 years of experience. And of course, you're not going to be able to stand out. And of course, you're probably not going to be picked over them, because if you were like a Fortune 500 company, right, and you were looking to hire, you would probably hire the person with more experience. So you have to teach them less and allocate less resources to their education. So yeah, in those industries with the really big layoffs from last year and the earlier part of this year, I think that particularly hurts you. So what do you do about that, right? Like, how do you make yourself feel better? And how do you kind of remind yourself that you do have desirable skills, but you oftentimes, in order to learn a job really well, it's not like school. A job is a set of tasks, unless you have a very agile job, we're all there to do one certain sets of things, right? How do you remind yourself that you do have skills and you're not totally incompetent, right? And like separate your personal life from this professional life that you're trying to lead and curate for yourself. And I think when you're in this job seeking process, right, I think it's probably most important than ever before in this market to put your energy into jobs that actually meet your interests. And I say that because when you are applying and writing these cover letters in this resume, and you say you do get an interview, right? So maybe you're applying to like 10 a week and you get it down to 5 a week, but they're the 5 that you really care about, right? You'll probably have so much more genuine things to say about stuff, right? Like, think about it. Every single person probably right now who's looking for a job is using AI. So you can probably say like 40% of the applications and cover letters these companies are getting are probably AI generated. These are just statistics off the top of my head. This is what my friends are doing. This is what I imagine people are doing, because like, why would you want to make your life harder? So when you do apply for these things and you fill out these questions in the cover letter, I do think that being able to come off confident and passionate in any discussion about why you want to work at this company, this job, right, is going to seem so much more genuine. Okay? Like, you are the brain, right, that is in charge of marketing and getting your skills out there. And what makes you irreplaceable is the fact that you are you, right? Like, anyone can code. If they put enough work into it, anyone can code. And I use that as an example because I think tech would be the opposite of what I do. Yeah, I just maybe genuinely apply to jobs you actually want to do, so that when you talk about it, you actually have passion for it. And this goes into my second point, which is understanding that if you don't get the job, then it's like not that big of a deal. Like, if they don't want you, then whatever. Like, it really doesn't matter, right? Like, they're missing out on you. Now, I do think that there is an alternate situation where you kind of need a job, right? And I'm there too, right? Like, I feel that way too, where it's like, I need money and I don't really care what I'm doing. So I would just get a job at a coffee shop, right? Like, if you're not getting high enough paying jobs doing shit you don't want to do, then just like go make coffee and you make all your money in tips. That's kind of how I feel about it. I think that there are definitely other I think there are definitely other alternatives where you can do gig work and things like that, but yeah, I don't know. I think denials suck, but I don't think they're as common as they used to be. I think a lot of people are just getting ghosted. I know for certain I am getting ghosted a lot. So, LOL. So, at the end of all of this, right, like, more intentionally applying to work, I think will do you very good. And if you're also at the beginning of the career, you're the least experienced you're ever going to be. You have the most opportunity that you're probably ever going to have. You know, you're like starting out. Just go fucking talk to people. You just have to like literally go talk to people about what you like, and talk to anyone who will listen, because you really do not know what sort of opportunities are out there unless you kind of honestly force yourself into it, especially if you're in professions that are like underserved for certain communities, like people of color or women or any one of those things, right? Like, just insert yourself, right? Like, we're at a point in time where your skills just don't speak enough for you, right? You can't just be like, I can do X, Y, and Z, right? Like, you have to have these people skills. You have to pass the behavioral exam. You know, there's so many different ways of assessing whether or not somebody is a good fit. Just be you, right? And I think that will garner the best return on at least work and opportunities, right? Yeah. And I think the last thing that I want to say here is one of the hardest things for me was throwing away this mentality that because I invested so much in college, I'm entitled to a job that automatically makes me happy, right? I think that there are 3 categories of job seekers right now, which are people that kind of get stuck into the rat race. Like, they're kind of doing something below their skill level, but you know, they're below their skill level and it's not particularly passionate for them, but it's fine. And then there are people who are trying to figure out what they want to do. They're like doing a lot of different things here and there, but they're still moving forward, right? All this stuff is still moving forward. And then the third category of people are people who just kind of found the perfect job with the perfect amount of pay, you know? Yeah, I think that's very unlikely. I think as we age, our needs and desires change, and I imagine your career needs and desires will also change. So getting rid of this idea that you're entitled to this like very, very specific type of job that does this very specific thing because it's all you know how to do, right? I think that the workforce in 2023 and beyond is going to require a lot more creativity out of people. And while I think that's great, I think it actually supplies a lot of pressure to recent grads. And I can say this for myself, like, I think I'm a creative person, but I didn't think I was creative enough to sort of like makeshift sort of like, didn't think I was creative enough for what it is that I have to do now, which is like be myself and like confidently present things that I'm not always sure about, right? I think it's been a really good practice, but definitely getting rid of that sort of entitlement. These have been my tips on applying to jobs. I know that there's a lot of technical tips that you'll probably see on the internet, but I want to say that mine is more of like an emotional, spiritual tip because I think that it will actually yield some pretty decent results. I mean, find things that are worth it to work for until you find the thing that, you know, actually wants to give back to you, like a salary job, if that's what you're looking for, right? Like, I know some people are looking for hourly jobs. I don't know. The workforce and employment is so weird now. But thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.